Should there be more strict punishments for tools that have cyber-related security flaws that ultimately are caused? That's the topic of today's Tread Talk, and the reason that's the topic of today's Tread Talk is because another WordPress plugin was used. This time it was on 600,000 different websites, and the attack was able to delete core files, upload incorrect links, text, and all sorts of things that can be damaging to a business or create other security issues, and a couple of other not so good things that you wouldn't want to happen with your WordPress site. And what I want to address related to it is the consistent issue there is with plugin software and software in general that is developed kind of at a higher level quickly as like either a band-aid or kind of an add-on solution, a little bit of a value add type thing, but then obviously increases the surface area of risk. Right now there's not a lot of repercussions for those types of tools, and the reason that is because people use tools just like they use cigarettes at their own risk, which I think is probably the right way to position things in a free market. But the question on my side is then, how do we motivate those software developers to have kind of a base level of what's necessary to keep people and data and information safe, so that there's kind of like an equitable economic situation happening, as opposed to what continues to happen, which is these software developers, these software companies develop these solutions, are able to make money. People then have security issues, and the money's gone, and the software solution makers have kind of moved on to a different thing, and there's not a lot of accountability, and it's like, be safe out there. But the problem is a lot of people aren't aware of how to be safe out there. So is there a regulatory need in the circumstance where there's consistent fraud and circumstances of taking advantage of people that can't really protect themselves? That should be enacted, or is it just people need to figure out, how to be ahead on this type of thing? And the latter, both don't seem like great solutions, because one, you're going to over-regulate everything to death, and then you're still going to have other software solutions that are, off the beaten path, so to speak, that people choose to use. And, you can't regulate everything forever, but then you can't also expect people at all ages, of all demographics, all socioeconomic statuses, to all countries, everything, to be able to keep up with what is the most technologically forward thing kind of going on. But it's really important, So, is there some kind of base level of, if you fall below this bar, you're liable? Is there some type of hey, you need to inform your customers X, Y, and Z? Do there need to be proper setup instructions that are really clear? When I set up an IKEA bookshelf. It's like you're setting this thing up at your own risk, and here's how you should do it. And if you go outside of these instructions, good luck. If the thing falls over and kills you, it's on you. But I don't think we have those types of informational guidelines and guide rails for this stuff in this industry. So is there something that we could do from a regulatory perspective that would bring expectations to a point where the businesses and the users, whether they be B2B or B2B2C or B2C, kind of have an equitable circumstance with what they're supposed to do. So again, maybe the regulatory line isn't you need to be here with your code quality, because this where that market it needs to be is probably changing all the time with different attack vectors and different technology and all this stuff. But maybe there needs to be some sort of transparency element that the developer is responsible for, so that the developer is the one that understands what's happening in the industry, understands what's happening to at least some level with attacks, or is able to identify somebody in their network that can support their business and being competent there, like an MSSP or some type of security consultant. So then the general public has something to go off of other than brand names, gut feels, cost, because it's not enough in a world where technology is like new. I mean, there are apps that make apps now, so we've got to help grandmas know what the fuck is happening. Because if we don't think about that type of thing, those people that are kind of on the backside of our society, that maybe aren't as sharp or don't have as much money or aren't as far forward, if we don't consider how they're going to be engaged with this technology, it could just get freaking weird.